So, what happens when a world that has existed for centuries is basically shattered in a single generation? Well, today we're diving into Easterine Kire's incredible book, Sky is My Father, to find out. This is the story of the Angami Naga people, their legendary warrior village of Konoma, and what happened when their world collided, and I mean collided, with the British Empire.
Okay, so first, try to picture a place almost completely cut off from the rest of the world. Konoma wasn't just a village, it was a fortress, literally cradled by these massive mountains and protected by the absolute fierce independence of its people. Its reputation, its influence, it was way bigger than its small size.
But what was actually inside this natural fortress? To really get what was lost, we have to first understand the world of 19th century Konoma. We're talking about a community shaped by a deep, deep connection to the land and a very proud warrior culture. Life here wasn't lived in isolation, not at all. It revolved around these really strong community structures. And maybe the most important of these was the Ho, the dormitory for unmarried men. But think of it as way more than that. It was the village school, it was the senate, it was the social club, all rolled into one. This is where a young man learned what it truly meant to be an Ngam.
Angami life was all about this delicate balance of interconnected duties. Your clan, well, that defined your family. The spirits governed your relationship with the land. And rituals, they guided pretty much everything, from how you farmed to how you went to war. And to gain honor, you had to serve all of these things, often through what they called feasts of merit, which showed off not just your prosperity, but also your generosity to the whole community.
And this deep spiritual connection, it extended to the creatures of the forest. A tiger, for instance, was never just an animal. The Angami believed that man, tiger, and spirit were once brothers. So to kill one was this act of immense power, and it required a 5-day ritual just to appease the spirits. It was a true test of courage, totally steeped in spiritual meaning. Our guide through this world is a young man named Levi. We see it all through his eyes. He's learning to hunt, learning to fight, and trying to understand this really intricate web of traditions that holds his village together. His life story, well, it's going to become the story of his people's transformation. For centuries, this self-contained world just existed, but it was about to face an external force unlike anything it had ever known, the British Empire, which was relentlessly pushing its borders up from the plains of Assam. So let's look at how this unfolded. What the British called expeditions very quickly became incursions. To the Angami, these weren't explorers, they were invaders. For decades, the conflict just simmered, raids and retaliations, back and forth. And it kept escalating until the British set up a permanent base right on their doorstep in Kohima. You can feel the pressure just building and building. And in this incredibly tense environment, Levi comes of age. He joins his first raid. And it's not against the British, it's against a rival village, just as tradition dictated. For him, this is a rite of passage. It's an act of honor to defend his clan. In the eyes of his people, he becomes a man. But on the way home, his entire world is turned upside down. The successful warriors walk straight into an ambush set by British forces, and they are completely outmatched. Levi, the proud young warrior, is bound, chained, and thrown in prison. Suddenly, he's no longer a Konoma man. He's a subject of an empire he doesn't even begin to understand. Levi's capture was really just a symptom of a much, much bigger problem. The simmering conflict between Konoma and the British was about to boil over into a dramatic, brutal, and frankly, legendary battle for survival. And this is how it all ignited. A British political agent, G.H. Dement, marches right up to Konoma's gates and demands their submission. The village, already on a war footing, refuses. The gates stay locked. And when Dement tries to force his way in, a single shot rings out and he falls dead. The line had been crossed. There was absolutely no going back. The British response was massive, you can imagine, but Konoma was ready. Their defense of their village was so ferocious, so effective, that on just the first day of fighting, a quarter, 1 in 4 of the British-led native troops were casualties. This wasn't just resistance. It was a masterful defense against a far superior military force. But courage and skill can only last so long against overwhelming numbers and firepower. The village eventually fell. The British decided to make an example of them. They burned Konoma to the ground and scattered its inhabitants, forbidding them to ever return. The military resistance of the Angami was broken.
So the physical war was over, but a new conflict was really just beginning. After the War of Guns came a totally different kind of invasion. This was a battle for the heart and soul of the Ngami people. Where soldiers had failed to completely subdue them, a new force would try to transform them from the inside out. This new force arrived in the form of men like Dr. Sidney Rivenberg. He didn't bring guns. He brought medicine, he brought schools, and he brought the Christian gospel. He offered a whole new way of understanding the world, a new path to salvation, and a new God, Isu, which is how Jesus was pronounced in the local language. In this new conflict, it became deeply, deeply personal. Levi, who had survived war and imprisonment, now faced a new kind of battle, and it was inside his own home. His son, Sato, was drawn to the mission school and to the stories of this new God. He chose a path that his father just could not comprehend.
I mean, the divide was absolute. For Levi, honor came from duty. Duty to the ancestors, duty to the clan. For his son Sato, salvation came from faith in a single, forgiving creator. One world was built on the spear and ritual, the other on prayer and peace. And this huge chasm was opening up right in the middle of their family.
And you can just feel the pain and the betrayal in Levi's words here. To him, Sato isn't just picking a different religion. He is erasing his identity. He's dishonoring generations of ancestors, and he's breaking the sacred chain that connects them all. The conflict is no longer on a battlefield. It's right there at the family hearth. So the end result of these two invasions, this 1-2 punch of arms and of faith, was the permanent, unalterable transformation of the Angami world. The new faith literally fractured the village. Converts were seen as having abandoned their community and all of its sacred obligations. They were cast out, forced to build new settlements away from their ancestral lands and, so crucially, away from the graves of their ancestors. It was like cutting a spiritual lifeline. And what about Levi, the symbol of the old ways? Well, his end wasn't on the battlefield against some great enemy. He was killed accidentally, tragically, by his best friend during a hunt. It's a quiet, sad end for a great warrior, and it almost symbolizes the fading of the world he fought so hard to protect. And all of this brings us to the final, lingering question, right? The story of Konoma is one of defeat and fracture, yeah? But it's also a story of adaptation and resilience. And it forces us to ask, when a culture is so profoundly changed, what does survival truly mean? Is it about preserving the old ways at all costs, or is it about finding a new way to exist in a world that has been changed forever?